Boker Tov, my friends. Good morning. We are on today's Daf Yomi is Yevamos Kuf Yud Aleph 111. We're going to start on the bottom of Kuf Yud on the base, on the bottom of 110b, 11 lines from the bottom. Amar Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman taught the following: Ashkachtei Rav Ada bar Hava. So we found that one time Ashkachtei Rav Ada bar Hava. Rav Chana Chasnei. One time, what happened was Rav Ada bar Hava and Rav Chana Chasnei were found that what were they doing? The Yasvei Vikam Kavu Akvase. They had a lot of students gathering around them. Beshuka de Pumpadisa. We're on the bottom of. We're going to start today's Daf Yomi on the bottom of 110b, around 11 lines from the bottom. Rav Ada bar Hava and Rav Chana's son-in-law were sitting around the marketplace of Pumpadisia. Va'amri, and they said the following: Haditanan. Now I just apologize in advance. Today is a very challenging page, so we'll do the best we can to stick with it. Okay. The good news is, if you could do this page, you could do any page. So they said they were sitting there in the markets of Pumpadisia, and they said that which we learned. Kitana v'charashes in bias achas me'em puteres sarasa. That which we learned. And if you have a katana, if you have a minor girl, and if you have a chareshes, a deaf mute, we're going to just use those words again and again. Katana is a minor, chareshes is the deaf mute. Then ein bias achas me'em puteres sarasa. That if they are both to yibum with one man. Usually when you do yibum, as we've said many times in the Masechta, when you do yibum with one wife, the co-wives are exempt. In this case, it doesn't exempt the co-wife. But that is only the case. That's what we learned in the Mishnah. That's only when they felt yibum from a brother who was a pikeach. Pikeach is a sound mind. Because we're not certain whether this pikeach prefers to be married to the katana or the chareshes. So we don't know which was his dominant wife. And so therefore, why if she's a katana, she has an advantage. Eventually she's going to have a sound mind, she'll have agency. And if she's a chareshes, that's also good. Because she's an adult. And so therefore she's capable of really engaging in bia. But if they both fell to yibum from a brother who was a cheresh, the cheresh, the deaf mute man, is for sure going to prefer the chereshes, the bas bia ubas minehi, because she's not only bas bia, not only capable of bia, she's also very similar to him in status. She's bas mineh. She's the same status. They're both chareshes. Va'aminu luana, and so says Rav Nachman. When I found them there speaking, what did I say to them? Va'aminu luana. I said, afiu nafole me'achiv charesh nami mesafkoe. I said, no, that's not enough of an argument. Even if she fell from a cheresh, we still don't know who he prefers. Maybe, by the way, one time there was a person who was deaf, and this person had a hard time meeting somebody. So I set them up with a deaf person, and they were insulted. They said, I don't prefer to be with a deaf. I wanted to be with, they got insulted with me. Okay, so you can't assume. So says the Gemara, Kate said, you had a question, Isaac? No. Okay.
Is it possible that why don't they just say whoever he married first?
Yeah, they don't give that argument, whoever he married first. They don't say that because it could also be whoever he married last. They could be, like get sick of the wife. So they don't say that. So the Gemara says, okay, so we just said this whole concept that if you have a chareshes and a katana, that it doesn't, we say that under those circumstances, the yibum with one of them does not exempt the other one. If that's the case, how do you release the second one? The second one needs to be able to marry other people. Usually when you have yibum with the first one, the second one's released. And you can't do, but now they're not released. So how does the second one get released? So
Are they just not going to solve the issue about which one he prefers?
Yeah, well, they're not. Yeah, they don't solve it. So Amarav Tazda, Amarav Kones Chareshes. So how do you release the second one? So what you do is you marry the Chareshes, and then afterwards, since you can't do chalitza with a Chareshes because you can't hear the passage being read. So first you do Yibum with her, then Motzia Beget, and then you divorce her. Then because you can't do Yibum with both, because you're not allowed to do Yibum with both brothers. So you do Yibum with the Chareshes, then you give her an actual divorce, and then the Ketana Tamtina Chetag Del V'Tichot. You can't do Chalitza with a minor. You wait for the minor to grow older, and then you do Chalitza with her, and that's okay because now she's released to everyone. So Amrav Chisda. So when Rav Nachman said this. When Rav Chisda said this in the name of Rav Chisda said, Shma Mina, we see from here, this is a complicated idea. It says, we see from here, Kasava Rav Chareshes, that this Chareshes girl is what's called Kenuya Umishuyeres. She is Kenuya, she is partially married to the first husband. She's Kenuya, she's married, but she's also Mishuyeres. She's also, there's a part of her that's not married to the girl. There's a part of her that's not married to the man. So whereas the other, so I mean, why is she rabbinically married? Because she's not completely able to be married. There's only a part of her that's left unmarried. Whereas the minor, Ketana, is Kenuya ve'ena Kenuya. With her, it's a different type of rabbinic marriage. She's either completely married or not completely married. Since we're not sure if she's completely married, therefore, we say that she's rabbinically married. Why? If you want to say the Chareshes girl is also Kenuya and not Kenuya, well, if that's the case, and you want to say, would you want to say Katana Kenuya or Mishuyeres, and the Katana is partially married, then Chareshes amai kones u'motzia beget. Why would you have to divorce the Chareshes? You could do the following. We're on the top of 111a. Teisev gavei mimanav shach. Let the Chareshes let him marry her and let her remain with him. My mimanav shach. Mimanav shach means, one way or the other, it's permitted. And what's the logic? If you say she's completely married, well then she's completely married. And no problem. And you did Yibum with her. And you don't have to divorce her. And then anything you do with the second one is nothing that you reflect upon the first son. If you have Kinuyai, and if she's not completely married to the first brother, then she's completely an unmarried woman. And of course you're allowed to remain married to her. So it must be that she's partially married, and that's why you have to divorce her. And if you want to say the minor, why does she have to wait with him until she becomes an adult? Why does she have to wait until she becomes an adult and then do chalitza? Let her go to him. Let her go with Yavam. And if she's able to be married, she's married. You have Kinuyahi. And if meaning to say, why don't you marry the minor one first? And if she's married, she's completely married. And if she's not married, she's just a separate person, and it's no problem to marry her. No, Gemara says, you can never do chalitza on the chareshes. So if you don't, because she can't hear, the reason why you can't do chareshes, chalitza on the chareshes, because she can't hear. So therefore, you have to do the chareshes first. You do the yibum with her, then you divorce her, wait for the minor to get older, then you give her the chalitza. But if you did this with the minor girl first, it'll be a problem because you can never do chalitza on the chareshes, and the chareshes will never be able to be married to anyone. Yes, we have a question from the floor from Eitan Janice, and I'll repeat it. That's Eitan.
So for the chareshes, you're like, she's either married or not married at all.
No, that's the katana. For the katana, we're not sure if she's fully married or not married at all. Chareshes, we're not sure if she's not completely married. We're sure she's not completely married. She's got like a partial marriage.
So you have to
the chareshes, you have to divorce. Why do you have to divorce her? Because you might think that since so since you're not sure that she's married and you can't do a chalitza with her, so you have to do the yibum with her, and the reason and because otherwise she would never be able to be released because you can't do chalitza with her. So the only way you can release her is by doing a chalitza, but you can't just do the yibum with her because maybe the katana is a stronger connection than the chareshas. I can't speak up. Would a Kohen be able to be married to Chareshas? No, because she's got a divorce. Right, so she can't. Yeah.
Why can't he do chalitza with the minor, right?
You can't do chalitza with a minor. You have to wait for her to get older.
Fine. Why don't you just wait? Why don't you wait till she's not going to take she
because the chalitza.
Full even with the.
No, you can't do that. So why can't you do chalitza with the minor and then do full yibum with the charesh? Because if the minor girl, you mean do chalitza with the minor, you can't do yibum with the chareshes once you did chalitza with the minor because maybe it was a good chalitza and you're not allowed to do yibum with a woman whose co-wife already had chalitza. So once you have yibum with one of them, the other one can only do chalitza.
Chalitza disqualifies another.
Even the chalitza, yeah, exactly. Very nice, very good. We see we're really getting to the crux of the matter thanks to all of these very good questions that were being thrown at us. So it says the Gemara, okay, Amar Rav Sheshes, Hachinami Mistabra. This is also the logical conclusion of the following teaching. The commentary of Chisda Liba de Rav, like Rav Chisda explained according to Rav. The Tanya, we have a brayso. Shnei Achin Nesuin Shtei Achos. If you have two brothers married to two sisters, again, you're not allowed to marry to two sisters, but each brother is married to one sister, and they are Yesomos, and they are orphans, so therefore they're only rabbinically married. Kitana v'chareshes. So they're minors. So meis bala shel kitana chareshes. So the husband of the word chareshes here really they say is unnecessary. So we're not going to go into that one too much. But meis bala shel kitana chareshes. So let's say the husband of one of the minors dies. Yotze beget. So then under those circumstances, if the husband of meis bala shel kitana chareshes, excuse me. Well, what's the situation here? So we have two brothers married to two sisters who are orphans. One is a katana, and one is a katana, and the second one is a chareshes. So there are two brothers married to two sisters. One's a katana, one's a chareshes. So the one, meis bala shel katana, the one who's married to the katana dies. Chareshes yotze beget. So since we're not sure if he's fully married to one of them, so he has to divorce her because he has the zika, he has the connection from the other one. Ukatana tamtina chetigdol v'tichot. And then he has to wait for the minor to grow older, and then he does chalitza with her. Meis bala shel chareshes. But if the husband of the chareshes dies, then katana yotze beget. Then what should he do? If the husband of the chareshes dies, katana yotze beget, then he should divorce his wife because he maybe has a connection to the chareshes. The chareshes asur l'olam, and there's no solution that can be done with the chareshes at all because you can't do yibum with her because maybe she was prohibited because she was a sister of his wife, and you can't do chalitza with her because she's a chareshes, so she can never marry anybody else. V'imba chareshes, well, let's say he violated the law and had relations with the chareshes, then no sin or get. Then you give her a divorce, and under those circumstances, you could give her a divorce for hutra, and then she's released to the world. Now, I feel like
that's a bad case to have because now, like the deaf mute woman is now kind of almost enticed to do it
to do this sin, right? That's true. They should punish her to prevent that. Right? You're right. That's a very good point. So now, if you want to say the chareshes is kenuya mushiyeres, that she's partially betrothed and partially not betrothed, and katana kenuya ve'ena kenuya, and the minor girl is completely betrothed or not completely betrothed. Mishamachi, for this reason, the chibal chareshes. For this reason, when he has relations with the chareshes, no single get for hutra. That's why he can give her the get and she's divorced. The amr has been manavshach because we say one way or the other. If the minor girl was fully married, Well, then she's allowed to marry somebody else because she's the sister of his wife. And and if she's not fully married, the minor girl, shop him yabim, then he can indeed do yibum with the chareshes. But if you were to say, we're not sure if the chareshes was kanuya, or if you want to say the chareshes was kanuya or not kanuya, and the katana was kanuya mishires, and the katana was partially betrothed. Kibal chareshes, if he has the yibum with the chareshes, am I noticing get v'hudra? Why would you be able to give her the get and then she's released? Havile bia pesua. This is what's called a bia pesua. What's a bia pesua? That a bia pesua we're talking about this is the circumstance where it's a bia that's prohibited, and bia pesua lo patra, that does not exempt you from the yibum. We have this principle that bia pesua does not exempt you from the yibum, and so therefore, if the minor girl was maybe married to him, it only works in this case if we say the minor girl was either completely married, in which case the bia is nothing, or not married, in which case it's a yibum. But if she's partially married, since we're not sure if she's partially married, then this is what's called the bia pesua, and that does not exempt her from the yibum. She'll still require a chalitza. So the Gemara says, yeah, well, this goes according to the position of Rabbi Nechemia, which we had earlier, Amani Rabbi Nechemia, which we had earlier, who taught us back on 50b, the Damar Bia Pesua Poteres Michalitza. Rabbi Nechemia says the Bia Pesua does exempt you from the Chalitza. So the Gemara says, well, Rabbi Nechemia, Ema Seifa, go to the next cause. What was the next cause? Misha Yanasoi Shtei Yisomos. Let's say you have somebody who's married to two Yisomos. They're not sisters. But Ketano Chareshes. But one is a minor and one's a Chareshes. Umeis. And then he dies. Ba Yavam ala Ketana. Let's say he has Yibum with the minor. The Chazer Ba Chareshes. And then he has it with the Chareshes. Osheba Achava Chareshes. Then we say, under those circumstances, Nesru Shtei and Alav, that they're both going to be prohibited to him. Meaning to say, if you have it with the minor, you have the deal with the minor, and then with the Chareshes, they're both prohibited to him. Now, why? Keitza Takanasan, what do you need to do? Chareshes Yotze Beget. So what you have to do then is the Chareshes you have to divorce, because you can't do chalitza. Katana tamtina chatagdav techotz. And the minor, you wait for her to get older and then do chalitza. Now here, Amr B'Shama Chareshes Kinuya Mushuyeres. If you want to say the Chareshes is partially betrothed, and Katana Kinuya Ve'ina Kinuya, and the minor, yes.
Thank you, Aaron.
If you want to say that Chareshes is partially betrothed, and the katana is kinuya ve'ena kinuya, and the katana is completely either all in or all nothing, the Rabbanani, and it's following the position of the Rabbanan who say that the Bia Psua will not exempt you from the chalitza. Well, if that's the case, that's why you do the chalitza on the minor. Then you have to do chalitza on the minor. The Dilma Kadam Ubail Charash inspiration, because maybe you had Bia with Yibam with Charashes at first. Bia to Katana, and the Bia with the minor was a Bia Psua, was therefore a disqualified Bia. And so therefore you're going to need to do chalitza with her. Eli Amras Rabbi Nechemia, but if you're saying that this is Rabbi Nechemia, Amar Bia Psua Padra, he says you wouldn't need the Bia there. So we see from here that the second clause of this brisa is the Rabbanan and not Rabbi Nechemia. So the Gemara says, Amar Rav Ashi. So how do we deal with this problem? So Amar Rav Ashi Mireisha Nami Shma Mina D'Rabbanan. He says you don't even have to wait to the latter clause to say that this price is the Rabbanan. The Katani in Baal Chareshes, no single get. It says that if you had relations with the Chareshes, you give her a get. But it doesn't say she's released. Meaning to say you would need to do chalitza, and in Baal Katani, no single get for Hutra. But if you add the Yibam with the Katana, then you give her a get and she's released. The Gemara says, well, that's not enough of a proof because imishum halo irya chareshes the leis like takanta de'atera katani takanta de'isur. The chareshes we have no other way to allow her. Therefore, you said this idea that you give her the get after the piyah. But katana the islay takanta de'atera lo tani takanta de'isur. But the katana you have a way to release her. And what's that? That way it's your chalisa. So therefore, they didn't do this. They didn't push off this permitted approach of biyah followed by the guess. Okay, so now we're up to the next Mishnah. The next Mishnah, like I said, is a complicated daf, so do the best we can. So somebody's married to two minors. They were rabbinically married, umeis, and then he dies. So the Yavam has relations with the first one. And then he goes ahead and has relations with the second one. He wasn't supposed to do this, but he did this. You're not allowed to have biyah with both women who fall to you in Yibam, but in this case, he did it. So, or a second brother had relations. So under these circumstances, lo pasal as harishona, he has not disqualified the first one. Why has he not disqualified the first one? Because the two girls have the same level of relationship with him. So if the first, because they're both minors, so if the first one was betrothed, then the second one is nothing. And if the first one is not betrothed, then the second one also doesn't disqualify her. So therefore, what he can do now is he can remain with the first woman, and the second one is released. The same thing with the two deaf mutes, because they're both the same level. But let's say you have a katana of a charashes. Let's say you have a minor and a deaf mute. But you have a katana. Let's say you have relations with the minor. And then you have it with the charashes. Now we have two different categories. Or your brother had relations with the charashes. So now, now we've disqualified the minor girl, meaning to say, because really the minor girl, initially speaking, was allowed to be with him because she's going to be permitted. Because if she was completely married, now she's completely doing yibum with him. But if she wasn't completely married, then she's not related. However, the rabbi said it's going to be prohibited because maybe you're going to do it in the opposite way and have the biyah with the chareshes first, and that's a problem. So now we say, Ba Yavam al Charashes. Let's say you had Yibam with the Charashes. V'chazer u'ba katana. And then, after you have Yibam with the Charashes, you have it with the katana, with the minor. O sheba achiv al katana. Or his brother did pasal as the Charashes. Now you've disqualified the Charashes. Why? Because since it's possible that the Yibam with the katana was completely okay, and so now that's going to say that what you did with the Charashes was not a good yib, was not a good biyah. And so therefore, now you still have a zika with the katana that overrides the zika with the Charashes. So now you're not allowed to be with the Charashes again. So too, bikechas for Charashes. Let's say you have a woman who's of sound mind with the Charashes, but you have a malpikachas. Let's say you were with you did biyah with the pikachas and now with the charashes. Or somebody else. Since the charashes is for sure lower category than the charashes, then the pikachas, the charashes doesn't disqualify the pikachas. But let's say you first had the biyah with the charashes and then chazer pikachas, and then you go back and you're with the pikachas. Or somebody, or your brother was with the kechas. Pasal is the charashes. Now we're not sure if the charashes' biyah wasn't strong enough, so now she's disqualified ever to be. And also, I guess you would give her a get from out of a concern, and you're not because you can't do chalitza. Now it says gedola katana. Let's say you have an adult and a minor. But you have a mal gedola. Have a chazer balktana. First you're with the adult and then the minor. O shabach balktana. Lo pasal gedola. Then you don't disqualify the adult. But you have a malktana. But if you first had relations with the minor, v'chazer ba'agdoa, and then you go back and have relations with the older one, o shebacha ba'agdoa, pasal siktana. Then you've disqualified the minor because the minor is just a rabbinic marriage, and the adult is going to require chalitza and get, and so therefore, the adult needs to leave with chalitza and a get, and the minor one needs a get because you're not allowed to be with her again. Whereas Rabbi Lezer Omer, in a circumstance where you first had relations with the minor and then with the adult, then what you do is you teach the minor to reject the marriage, and then she could stay with the adult. So I'm Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, Arachak Rabbi Lezer. The law is like Rabbi Lezer that you teach her to do miyun in that last case. That you teach her to do miyun. Utzricha, and we needed to tell us this in both cases because we already said this earlier in our Gemara in a circumstance where we said that the man was married to two sisters. One was an adult and one was a minor. And then the one who was married to a minor, the one who was married to an adult, his brother died. There also we say we teach her to do miyun. So why do we need Rebbe Lezer to say this law in both cases? Because if we said this case in a case where there were two brothers married to two sisters, there we teach you to do miyun. We'd say there you would say Rebbe Lezer said you teach the younger one to do miyun because he didn't fulfill the mitzvah of yibum. But in this case, the kayim mitzvah yibum. In this case, we fulfill the mitzvah of yibum. Again, maybe you would say you should just divorce both of them and you don't teach her. And if you just had this latter case, well, you say maybe he's only teaching her to do miyun because the older one falls in the yibum. But in the other case, where there were two sisters, we wouldn't need it. So the Gemara says, Yavam Katan. Let's say you have a boy who's less than 9 years old, or he's 9 years old. Shabal Yavam Katan. He's not bar mitzvah, and he has yibum with a minor girl. Yigdu Zemzeh. Then what we do say under those circumstances, since biblically speaking, they've acquired each other through yibum, but he can't divorce her because you can't give a get until he's an adult. Therefore, Yigdu Zemzeh. Then they should live together, even though their bia is not able to reproduce yet, because eventually they're going to become permitted with each other. So we have these children living together. But Yavam Gadola, let's say he has relations with an adult Yavam, an adult woman, then we're going to say Tigdalenu. Then she should raise him because she fell for him with Yibam and he can't divorce her, so then he's raised together with him. Yevama, okay, so now we have another interesting case. Follow this case. Yevama comes along and she says, she says, he did Yibam with me. We're in the bottom of 111b in the Mishnah, the second Mishnah on 111b. The Yevama says, I felt the Yibam with him. He took me into the back room, below Navalti, and we never actually had Bia. But, and he gave me a get. And he says, I did have Yibam with her. We did have Bia. And now I gave her a get. She wants him to do chalitza. He doesn't want to do chalitza. Why? Because Tosa says, he's embarrassed. He says, I don't want to go in front of the Bezdin. We know when they do chalitza, they bring out hundreds of rabbis to see it. It's so rare, and they spit in front of him. He says, I don't need to go through this. He says, I had bia with her, and now I'm giving her a get. Totally fine. She says, no, we were never together. She has to do chalitza with me. Kofano, so she yachotza. Within 30 days, we make her do the chalitza. Within 30 days, we make her do the chalitza. But if it was after 30 days, we just ask him to do it, but we can't force it. Because after 30 days, we say for sure they can't live together for 30 days without having had bia. We force him. We beat him up until he does it. We force him. Yeah, we force him. We force him until he says, you know what, I changed my mind. We force him to give the chalitza in the first case. We force him. Ubizman shel moda, but let's say he admits after 30 days, actually, you know what? We never had relations. Then then you always force him. If he admits I never had relations with him, you always force her. And now we say another case. Let's say she takes an oath from her husband. Let's say a woman takes an oath from her husband. I'm never going to have any benefit from my husband. We would force him to divorce her and she doesn't get her ksuba because he can't get married. But let's say she says, I am never, while her husband's still alive, she says, I'm never going to have any benefit from my husband's brother. And now the husband dies and she falls in Yibam to the brother. He can't be married to her because she took that oath. So Kofin also sheyachotcha. We force him to do chalitza. But if she takes this oath after her husband died, which is just in a state of Yibam, then we just ask him. Because then it's not enough. But let's see, this was her intent from the beginning. Even while her husband was alive, we request that he does chalitza on her. Because it's not enough. We can't force her because we say that was her whole intent of the vows from the beginning. Yeah, Eitan Janice has a question.
What makes that oath? Like, she just doesn't want to raise it, right? What makes it?
Because so Eitan says, why do you need to take an oath? Why do we believe the oath?
Yeah.
Why do we believe the oath? Do you need two witnesses? If she just claims the oath, that's a good question. Why do we believe the oath? So you're going to see we're not going to believe her at certain things. Like we're going to see in tomorrow's daf or Tuesday's daf, if she's married to a Kohen and she says, oh, I was assaulted, we don't necessarily believe her. We're going to get to that on 112a, that there are circumstances where we don't believe her. So Eitan is asking a question, which the Gemara is going to discuss. Why do we believe her if she has an oath? That's to her advantage. It's an excellent question that Eitan has asked. That's why you'll have to come tomorrow to hear the answer. Okay, any questions before we start?